5:44 p.m. We will now reconvene into open session. Thank you for joining us tonight. Reminder that the meetings of the board are open to the public, but are not a meeting of the public. The Humble ISD Board of Trustees meet monthly in a regular meeting to receive reports from staff and take action from recommendations of the superintendent. The board does receive the agenda and all supporting documentation several days in advance of the regular meetings, which allows us to ask and receive answers to many of our questions in advance of the regular meeting. Therefore, lengthy discussions are not always necessary on every agenda item. But as a board, we do have the appropriate knowledge and preparation for responses regarding the content of the meeting tonight. There are students and other guests present. To maintain decorum, respectful behavior is expected. Disruptive behavior and/or comments will not be allowed. And with that, our first item is we will now honor our flags, and if we would begin the Pledge of Allegiance to the United States flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, one and indivisible. And now we will honor the Texas flag. Honor the Texas flag. I pledge allegiance to thee, Texas, one state, under God, one and indivisible. We will now observe a moment of silence, and I would like to say in appreciation for all of our excuse me, I'm getting stuttered. Our healthcare workers, our officers, and the staff that is working from our district, in our district, every minute to make this horrendous time for our students to be as good as it gets. And so I would like to take a moment of silence for them. Thank you very much. Now, our next item is public comment. The board encourages comments from citizens of the district or from district employees. Anyone wishing to speak, either as an individual or as a representative of a group, may do so following the procedure outlined on the agenda. The board asks that comments pertain to public education issues and be no longer than 5 minutes. Remember that the board may not discuss or act upon any issues that are not posted on our agenda for tonight's meeting. If an issue mentioned is listed on tonight's agenda, the board will defer discussion until the appropriate time during the meeting. In addition, the board has adopted complaint policies that are designed to secure at the lowest administrative level a prompt and equitable resolution of complaints and concerns. Complaints brought by students or their parents, by employees, and by citizens may be heard in accordance with board policies. Each of these processes provides that if a resolution cannot be achieved administratively, the person may appeal the administrative decision to the board as a properly posted agenda item. Copies of our district policies on public participation in meetings and filing complaints are available on the Humble ISD website. I do not think we have any public, do we, Ms. Martin?
No, we do not have any.
Okay, then we will move forward. Our next item is comments by individual board members, starting with, and I'm just going to go to the left of my screen, Mr. Scarfo.
Thank you, Mrs. Morrison. I appreciate the time, and hi to all of you guys. It's been a while since I've seen you in person. Again, I know Ms. Morrison, you'll do this for us, for the entire board, just in terms of our thankfulness to all of Dr. Fagan and her great leadership and all of our staff. I'm going to leave you to expound on that. not take up a lot of time. I know we all have those strong feelings. So I'm going to stop talking. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Scarfo. I do appreciate that because I know Dr. Fagan will want to speak quite a bit. Just a moment. Ms. Toomey.
I will follow Mr. Scarfo's lead and just defer any time to other people and just say I'm so thankful for everyone that and the work that they've been putting in.
Thank you very much. Mr. Sitton.
Yes, Dr. Fagan, you and your team have been incredible through all of this. All of our food service personnel has been incredible through this. Our police force has been incredible through this. But as a parent of a senior and as a parent of a 7th grader, the work that our teachers and our staff are doing to get educational materials, electronic and via paper form to our students has been phenomenal. So to Dr. Johnson and her staff and that team, I just wanted some special thank yous out there. And also want to thank Dave Martin, our former trustee, for the in the city of Houston in conjunction with Harris County, State Representative Dan Huberty, the work he's doing with Commissioner Morath. So just a lot of thank yous out there, but I know that Ms. Morrison and Dr. Fagan will expound on that, but I just wanted to make sure that we got those out there. Thank you. Nancy, you're muted.
Thank you. Ms. Conrad.
I will defer my time too. I will only say that how proud I am to be part of Humble ISD. I couldn't be more proud of our administration and our staff and our community members for stepping up during this. I'll defer the rest to you, Madam President.
Ms. Dixon.
Yes, I would also like to just thank the entire staff, Dr. Fagan and her entire team. Also, as a parent with 2 kids in high school in the district, it's impressive to me that the graciousness that the teachers have given, and paid towards my kids, my personal kids, and I know they're doing that all throughout the district. The learning opportunities that they're providing for all children and kind of keeping them engaged and having Zoom meetings. I've just been really impressed across the board, whether it's food services to the administration, and definitely 110% Dr. Fagan's leadership. Thank you.
Mr. Lopez.
I'll yield my time as well, but just to echo the comments, I want to thank Dr. Fagan and the administration, our teachers, our food service employees especially, for the work that they've done, and we're all in this together, and we'll get through it. But it's just a lot of hard work going on right now by a lot of our employees. So just want to thank them.
I just want to say a huge thank you. Dr. Fagan, you are boots on the ground. That's what I'm going to say. You are everywhere. Your staff is everywhere, doing everything unimaginable in order to make life as good as it can get for our kiddos. I mean, the Zoom lessons, the parades through the neighborhoods, our cafeteria staff, our first responders. I mean, anything and everything. We cannot thank your staff and you enough. And just hats off. And like I say, if I could make a shirt, boots on the ground, Dr. Fagan, I'd do it right now. So I'm going to defer because our next item would be comments from the administration. So it's your time.
Well, first, thank you for all of your very, very kind words. We could not do what we do without your support. And you all have been so incredibly supportive from the first minute of this. And I know that you will be all the way through. We joke about the uneventful few years we've had here with the hurricane and Imelda and now this. There's some funny stuff on Twitter where Kingwood High School's mascot was out there holding up signs about, we made it through Harvey, we made it through Imelda, we're gonna make it through this. there's some good stuff out there. And, and leadership starts at the top. It does. And the fact that our staff has stepped up in a role unimaginably, honestly, to meet the needs of 45,000 children in their homes, and not at a minimalist level, but on a personalized level, to reach out and make sure that every single child has been connected with, to make sure that there are opportunities for face-to-face, even if it's from a car window. You mentioned Councilman Dave Martin, Mayor Pro Tem. I talked to him this morning and asked him if the new order means we have to stop our elementary parades. And he said, absolutely not. There's more than 6 feet between everyone, so it's all good. So you heard it there first. If our teachers get into trouble, they had his blessing to do it. The way that people have stepped up, and and for some folks who are incredibly comfortable with technology and have been using Zoom or Flipgrid or these other tools for a long time, they were able to pivot and use those for their students. But they didn't just do that. They helped their friends and their colleagues and their neighbors figure all that stuff out too. They started immediately posting, look at this thing, try this tool. This is how I set up mine. And at the same time, they started reaching out to authors. Do you mind if I read your books online to my children? Then authors started coming on and saying, no, I'll read it. I'll read it directly for your children. I mean, how great is that? Comcast came out and said, we don't want anybody to not have internet. We will give 2 months of free basic internet to any low-income family. Teachers immediately started reaching out to children that they thought might be in that circumstance. They immediately started getting tools for free from Scholastic, from Zoom, all these vendors who have typically charged for some of their premium services and tools started giving them away because they understood the strain of the situation. For other teachers in our district who are really, really incredible teachers, the whole technology platform is brand new. And yet there they are jumping on board immediately that very first Monday to engage in professional development and start to learn and figure out how they too can access this space and connect with their students. And the online postings, the enthusiasm, the ideas, they're on fire. And it's everybody is, if you've seen some of the music teachers who are posting their own singing, and then their students are then posting their singing back, or orchestra teachers who are playing instruments, and then these students are posting their orchestra practices back, sharing it with not just their teacher, but the world. Or the Olgies family who all play instruments and came out and played a lullaby one night and posted it for the entire Humble ISD family. So people are, the whole notion of Humble ISD right now is that everybody is contributing to a new space in their own unique ways, using their own unique talents. And that varies across the board, but we value every single one of those. We have custodians who are checking our buildings every day, reporting anything that's broken or wrong that we need to fix, who are cleaning up what we consider somewhat contaminated spaces because there's either construction there or some other event thing that we've had to do there, and they're cleaning up those spaces to make sure those buildings are sanitary. We've been sanitizing playground equipment so small children can get out and play because we want that. We want to encourage families to feel that those spaces. Now the judge's order changes that piece, but before that we wanted that to be part of the community and part of what we contribute, our facilities, in a way that we still could. So you all mentioned the food service piece, and while at first glance somebody might think, oh, no big deal, go out and serve food, you do it every day. But it's a huge deal because initially we didn't order food that way. We didn't think about what would be good to put in a sack and hand to somebody on a curb. We had the food that we had. And so we were heating up pizzas and breadsticks and chicken nuggets and you name it. We were packing it up and we were getting it out to the curb. We tried a lot of different formats last week. On Thursday, we tried to give parents 3 days worth of meals. We wanted them to get through the weekend. And if you take the number of meals we served times 3 days, which is how much food was there, it was over 42,000 meals. So if you think about our food service folks who are coming in, they're ordering food, then they are making food, they are putting it in bags and containers, organizing it, moving it out to the curb, putting it in freezers, keeping it warm, warmers, and then going curbside and saying to families, how many children, and getting those families that food. it is such a positive environment. It's a grueling amount of work, and people are stepping up, whether it's the police officers who are jumping in to divide the line, get 2 lines going, keep the traffic moving, giving that car advice, or helping the food service folks carry bags, roll things across. The warehouse guys that are running to Humble High School, packing their trucks and getting to Humble Middle School or wherever they've got to go, because we're constantly, so we were doing reservations at first, and now we can't because statewide, anybody can go anywhere they want. And that's okay, but it changes the dynamic of what we're doing. And so what happens is we all start out with 800 meals, and then Nolan starts figuring out who is running out and who's running low, and then he starts sending trucks. And at River Pines on Thursday, our truck would not open. So we had a truckload of meals and no ability to open it. So then we've got mechanics coming and all these people, transportation come, they get the truck open. And the crowd cheers, and we get going again. And I'm running down the car line saying, just a minute, we got to get these chicken nuggets heated up, but then we'll be right there. And to the person, there's, oh, no problem. Thank you so much for doing this. We had cars after cars of grandparents who are taking care of grandchildren, and just all kinds of situations, and people are excited to see other people. We've had all kinds of coaches volunteer to support the food service folks. And today when I was at Ridge Creek, some kids drove through and they're like, hey, coach. They're excited to see the people that they're used to seeing every day. And it's a positive thing in our community. And it's a lot of work for our custodians, our warehouse, transportation, food service, police. And there's no one there who isn't smiling. Now, some of them have masks on, so you can't tell, but there is nobody there who's not happy to be serving in that way. We have a lot of protocols about you haven't traveled, you haven't been in big groups, you haven't been around somebody exposed, because we don't want to put the food service folks, the police, et cetera, at any kind of risk beyond what is naturally a risky situation. So we are really trying to be careful and do well. We're practicing social distancing to the extent possible. But really and truly, we started this and said, you know, it's a change of venue, it's a change in the way we do things, but we're going to continue learning for every child, and we're going to make sure everybody has food. And that's what we've done. And it's only been a week. It feels like a month, but we're going to continue down this path, and we're getting better every day. We're trying to figure things out like grading. We had to figure out what to do with the third quarter. We've had so many unexpected things pop up. And the other part of this is we want to communicate quickly, but the information changes constantly. And so we get information one day from the College Board about SAT, and the next day they change their mind. So we're really being patient, capturing the information, getting it out as soon as we feel like it's really a done deal, and moving forward with that. So AP testing is all online now. There is no ACT or SAT until maybe June or July. A lot of those things, there is no STAR testing, there's no EOCs. A lot of people are reaching out about, oh my goodness, how do I graduate without EOCs? We have to use a whole different process for that now. But those children will graduate. And the other side of it is the seniors who are reaching out and saying, hey, don't forget, I've waited 18 years for prom and graduation. What about that? And one thing I would just want to say publicly to that end, and this is what I've said to parents who've emailed me, is that just remember right now the governor's order restricts us to groups of 10. And so whatever the orders are that are in place at that time are going to be a big factor in what we can and cannot do. There's a high likelihood of postponement of those events until those orders are lifted. And we're exploring open air options because we believe there might come a time in the nearer future where if we were outside separated with a little space between people, we might be able to have a ceremony sooner than later. We don't want to wait too long. Kids will be off at college. There's just so many dynamics right now we're dealing with, but we're trying to really pay attention to things that are special to everyone. And some people are saying, hey, that very last senior baseball tournament was really important to me, or I believe my soccer team was going to state. What about that? We're working with the UIL on all those pieces too, and they hope, they really do, they're committed to having end of the year tournaments and meets so that those seniors and those juniors who are looking at signings and those kind of things will have their opportunity to shine with all the hard work they've done. But who knows if that's going to be possible or not. So I've gone on too long, but I want you to know that everybody's working really hard, and I'm very, very proud of them every day. The happiest part of every one of my days is something that one of our teachers has done online to spread that Humble ISD feeling of family and joy. And I thank them from the bottom of my heart for being so positive and uplifting during a very challenging time for everyone, personally and professionally.
Okay, thank you very much. Okay, we next move into action items from closed session. 4A, resolution in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. A resolution in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency. Ms. Conrad, do I have a motion?
Madam President, I move to adopt and approve the attached resolution of the Board of Trustees in response to the COVID-19 public health emergency and delegate authority to the superintendent as stated therein.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Martina Dixon, Lamont Dixon seconded. All those in favor?
Madam President, this is Stephanie Marr. I'm so sorry. Can you call for discussion in case there is any?
I certainly can. Thank you, Stephanie. Is there any discussion to this item first?
I just wanted to say, if I may, that the reason that this resolution goes through June 30th is because that is the end of our fiscal year and also our contract year. And so that's the date we chose for that reason, not for any other reason. We certainly hope we don't need this emergency resolution that long, but we are just putting it out there through the contract year, through the fiscal year, and allowing us to have the flexibility to do the right things for our employees in our district through that time should we remain in a closed position. However, as we sit here today, the district is only currently closed through April 10th.
Thank you for clarifying that, Dr. Fagan. This is unusual because not being able to tell exactly who votes what. We're going to do this old school in the sense that I'm going to ask each one of you to say yay or nay. Okay, I'm going to start with Mr. Scarfo.
I'm sorry, I had my muted. I thought we were going to raise our hands. Yay.
Yay. Okay, Ms. Toomey,
Yay.
Mr. Sitton,
Yay.
Ms. Conrad,
Yay.
Ms. Dixon,
Yay.
Mr. Lopez.
Yay.
That clarifies for Ms. Martin. Thank you. Second item of business from closed session, personnel recommendations. Ms. Conrad, do I have a motion?
Nancy, did you vote on the last?
I did not. Thank you. I am a yay.
Good catch. For item 4B, I move to approve the administration's personnel recommendations as presented in closed session with addendum.
Second.
Mr. Sitton seconded. Okay. Mr. Scarfo,
Yay.
Ms. Morrison votes yay. Ms. Toomey,
Yay.
Mr. Sitton,
Yay.
Ms. Conrad,
Yay.
Mrs. Dixon,
Yay.
and Mr. Lopez.
Yay.
Okay. Now we will move on to the consent agenda. And what I will do is I will read the agenda item and I will pause afterwards. So in case somebody wants to pull one, we can hear it. Okay. 5A, approval of minutes for the regular board meeting held on February 11th, 2020. B, approval of minutes for the special board meeting held on February 20th, 2020. C, goods, professional services, and non-construction services exceeding $50,000 in the aggregate or $25,000 individually. D, 2019-2020 construction and construction-related purchases. E, budgetary transfers and amendments, including an increase for GPS lease for buses. F, bond transfers and amendments. G, tax refunds. H, waiver of P&I. I, board authorization for interlocal agreements. J, approval of RFP 00804 educational service consultants. K, annual external financial audit services. L, ratification and purchase of a real property located on Old Bender Road in Harris County. M, procurement and delivery method of the Humboldt High School additions and renovations project. N, general contractor selection for the North and South Ag Barn project. O, general contractor selection for high school athletic improvements. P, general contractor selection for a Tascasita Middle School roof replacement. Q, general contractor selection for summer 2020 temporary buildings. R, architect selection for group 2 of the multipurpose rooms. Ms. Conrad, do I have a motion on the consent agenda?
Yes, Madam President, I move to approve the consent agenda items A
Second.
through R.
Any discussion? Okay, I will go through now and ask who's in favor.
Was there a second? I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry.
I
We have a
second.
motion. Who's second?
Robert Scarfo seconded it.
Okay.
Okay, Mr. Scarfo seconded. Okay, Mr. Scarfo,
Yes.
Nancy Morrison is a yes. Ms. Toomey,
Yay. Yes.
Mr. Sitton,
Yay.
Ms. Conrad,
Yay.
Ms. Dixon,
Yay.
Mr. Lopez.
Yay.
Motion passed. All right. We have no pulled items. Now we'll move to the next action item, 6A, instructional materials for Proclamation 2020. Instructional materials for Proclamation 2020. Ms. Conrad, do I have a motion?
So moved.
Do I have a second?
My apologies, Ms. Conrad. This is Stephanie again. Could I have you read the recommended action for the full motion language, please?
Absolutely. I move that the Board of Trustees approve the instructional materials for Proclamation 2020 for implementation in 2020, 2021 for English 1 through English 4.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second.
Ms. Dixon seconded. All those I'll go through. Mr. Scarfo?
Yes. Yay.
Nancy Morrison is a yes. Ms. Toomey?
Yay.
Mr. Sitton?
Yay.
Ms. Conrad?
Yay.
Ms. Dixon?
Yay.
Mr. Lopez?
Yay.
All right. Information items number 7A, joiner presentation on middle school number 10. Our first information item, the presentation is attached for viewing. Any questions or discussion from the board regarding this item?
I had one question.
Okay.
I assume that the inclusion of the temporary buildings was just for demonstration purposes of where maybe potentially in the future those buildings could be sat, not that we plan on opening up this building with the need for temporaries.
That is
That is correct. I asked the same question in building and planning. So the site there is just in case. You have to have a spot on the property just in case we move to that in the future, but that is not the plan.
You always have to have a plan B.
Right.
And so any design we do now for any new school building, they have a kind of a dotted area for temporary buildings for future growth.
Okay, information 7B. Our next information item, 7B, financial services reports, is a monthly administrative item. Any questions or discussion from the board regarding this item? Okay. Item 7C, our next information, Humboldt ISD Police Department 2019 Racial Profiling Report is an annual report. Any question or discussion from the board regarding this item? Being none, 7D, our review of student cell phone policies and procedures. Any questions or discussions from the board regarding this item? Having none, I'll move to 7E. Annual performance report for the 2018-2019 school year. Any questions or discussion from the board regarding this item?
Ms.
Okay,
Moore,
having none.
this is actually a presentation item that we required to do annually. And so if we could, we would like to go ahead and present these slides quickly. Warren Roan, I believe, is on the call. And we're going to, I think I'm going to share the slides maybe.
Okay.
Warren's going to share them.
Oh, he's going to share them. Great.
All right, great.
He's going to share his screen so you can all see the slides. And this is an annual item. And there's going to be two parts to it. The first part is what's required by code. And it's really funky because some of the reports are from 17, some of the reports are from 18, other reports are, that's just the way it is. We have no choice. That's just the way that they have us do it. So we're going to share the information we're required to share. We're going to explain some things you're going to see. And then the second half of it would be our first steps into what we would prefer as a local accountability approach, where we really take a look at some things that are the metrics that we value that demonstrate how our children in cohort groups are learning and growing over time, which is what we would rather look at than some of these other aggregates, et cetera, that the state requires. So Warren's going to present the information to you and we'll work our way through it.
All right. I'm attempting this anyway. Okay, can y'all see the screen? All right, thank you.
Yes.
So trustees, Dr. Fagan, and the public, I want to welcome you. Good evening. So we're going to go through this annual performance report. As Dr. Fagan said, it's required by TEA, Texas Education Code, Chapter 39, requires that we publish an annual report, including the TAPR, or the Texas Academic Performance Report. For the district and also each campus, we also have to have campus performance objectives, a report of violent criminal incidents, and information received under Texas Education Code 51.403E, which is the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board. So this report is going to be available on the website. And as Dr. Fagan mentioned, this report is often confusing because it captures data from multiple school years, and I'll try to indicate the data source as we go through this. Humble ISD is accredited by the Texas Education Agency. And so for the year 2018-19, we had 5,426 staff members. That was an increase of 3.6% from the previous year. Of these, 67.1% were professional staff, which includes teachers, professional support, campus administration, and central administration. When we look at the second section of the slide, 2017-18, this information is from the PEMS financial report. And there's links to all these reports in the TAPR report. And this information was downloaded on the 10th of December, 2019. The district's adopted tax rate was 1.52, $1.52, which is $1.17 maintenance and operations and 35 cents interest and sinking fund. A majority of the district's value by category was residential, which was 80.9%, which is about the same as last year, and then 17.3% for business. And then the instructional expenditure ratio was 62.6%. The district had an unassigned fund balance of $91,712,601 as of June 30th, 2018. And this represented 22.3% of the total general fund expenditures. The district enrollment for 2018-19 was reported as 43,441 students with an ethnic distribution of 21.4% African American, 36.3% Hispanic, 36.3% white, 0.3% Native American, 3.2% Asian, 0.6% Pacific Islander, and 2% two or more races. Represented in the total enrollment was a rate of 38.0% economically disadvantaged, as well as 9.4% English language learners, and 49.1% of the students were considered at risk. And you can see that I have also included in this slide the fall enrollment for 2019, 45,078 students. So you can see our enrollment has steadily increased over the years. When we talk about the state accountability system, we had 43 campuses were rated on the A to F grading scale. The district was rated B overall. Campuses earned 11 distinctions over 19 campuses. And these distinctions are based on star performance in the areas of reading, math, science, social studies, progress measures, closing the gap, and post-secondary readiness. And for more information, Texas set up a new website, texasschools.gov, txschools.gov, where you can go in and look up individual campuses and individual schools based on these three areas that were the domains that were rated on: student achievement, domain 1, student school progress, and closing the gaps. So those are the three domains in this accountability system. And for the most part, this accountability system is set up to be weighed heavily on the STAR exam. So in the next slide, we look at the STAR results from 2019. When you look at the performance of the district compared to state and the region, we consider three different levels of achievement. We have the approaches, meets, and master's grade level. And when you look at the valuation of meeting the STAR and approaches for, or above for all students, we exceeded the state and regional performance in three content areas: reading, science, and social studies. The district also exceeded the state and region performance at the meets grade level in reading, science, and social studies, and exceeded the state and region in the master's level in science and social studies. In addition, Humboldt ISD students were slightly lower than the state and region performance in the area of academic growth in both of the subject areas evaluated in this measure. Those two are the reading and the math. And one reason that is true is because of the new TEA substitute assessments policy. And the students were allowed to use that in this past school year in 2018-19. Ours was one of the few districts in the area to promote these substitute assessments. But the problem was the substitute assessments were capped at the meets level. So you could not make the master's level if you used a substitute assessment such as the PSAT. And then for this current year, we were informed by TEA the state was going to discontinue the use of these substitute assessments.
Warren,
yes, sir.
I raised my hand. Maybe Mrs. Morrison didn't see it. Going back to the slide before this one, can you just help me understand like how these roll with each other? Like say reading, for instance, right? So 78% approach grade level, and then 52% meets grade level or above, and then the other one, master's. How are they all independent of each other, those totals? Because I guess what I was having trouble just with the arithmetic of if we have 100, if we're using 100%, the students have to fall in one of those three categories.
Correct.
So how do you, so is 52 part of the 78? Is the 20 part of the 52?
Yes.
How does it roll through? That's all I wanted to understand.
Yeah, so if you look at the very first number, the 75 in the reading, so it's 75% of the students, if you want to think of this as they made a C or better, then how many made a B or better? And so yes, it includes anything higher than approaches. So the first one's approaches or above. Approaches includes meets and masters in that first one.
Okay, thank you. That's what I was thinking. Okay.
It's cumulative, or it's inclusive, I should say. All right. I appreciate you stopping me. I can't do two things at once. So let me know if you all have questions.
Hey, Dr. Roan, can, you know those campus accountability reports?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we still send those out with our report cards on the quarterly, or were those just posted on the website?
Those are posted on the website. And again, they're also on our district website, I should clarify, and also texasschools.gov.
If I could, Madam President, I just want to mention and sort of reiterate what Dr. Roan said, and that is a lot of districts chose not to offer the PSAT as an alternative assessment because they knew it would hurt this report and other related reports, because if you use the alternative assessment, masters is off the table. And so you're going to see students who did really, really well on the PSAT, but the most they could get was meets. Still, the students valued those assessments far more than they value the STAR. So we felt like it was only honest, truthful, and best for students to tell families that that was a choice, even though some districts said, we're not doing that because it's going to hurt our school grades. It's going to hurt our district grades. And so we did it, and we did it, in my opinion, very well and very strongly. And you'll see those data later. But it did have some level of an impact because you also don't get the progress if you have used those alternative assessments. So you see the impact on that next slide. And it's just really important to know that that's the reason why, is that TEA in ways disincentivize the use of alternative assessments, even though they are, in our opinion, better for students.
And I would like to speak to what you just said, Dr. Fagan. I mean, as a board member in Humble ISD, I really appreciate the district making it about the student rather than about the district. I mean, I think we still did well, of course, across the board, but to me, it's better for us to take the quote unquote hit versus the student. So I really appreciate that. Thank you.
All right, I'll proceed. So again, we talked about the state discontinued the use of substitute assessments this past school year. And so that's no longer a choice for us. So if we look at school year 2017-18, again, remember that we're looking at several different years of data, unfortunately, in this one report. But for 2017-18, our attendance rate was 95.6%. We also had, that was slightly better than the state and the regional rate, which was 95.4%. Our dropout rate for grades 7 and 8 was 0%, and grades 9 through 12 was 0.6%. And these were also below the state and regional rates. In the class of 2018, when you look at the exclusions that the state allows, we had 96% of the district students graduated, 0.1% received a GED, and 1.5% were students who continued for a 5th year, while 2.3% dropped out. But if you look at the federal, that became 93.7%, which was graduated, and state's rate was 90.0. African-American graduation rate was 94.1, Hispanic 93.5, white 93.6, economically disadvantaged 92.9, special education was 63.6, because of the federal definition, which did not include those continuing students such as those at Cambridge. But if you look at the state definition, it was 90.3. And then for English language learners, it was 84%. When you look at the previous year, for the class of 2017, we had 93.3% for all students. So again, our graduation rate is higher than the state and region, and it's been that way for several years now. When you look at college readiness, we have some measures that the state considers as college readiness. And so we look at various factors, and that's included in this report. We have the advanced and dual course completion. We have the AP and IB scoring criterion. We have SAT and ACT. And we also have what they call college and career military ready, which was a new measure this past year. And that it was driven by the goal of having 60% of young adults being well prepared by the year 2030. So for the class of 2017, the college and career ready was 59.7. And for the district, it's this year, it's 69.3%. So our college and career rate is going up. We have different measures, again, that all factor into it. And basically, when you look at a student, if they have one of these measures, they're considered college and career ready. So if they have a high SAT, if they have a high AP test, if they take dual credit courses, they're considered college ready.
Dr. Ron, I have
Yes, sir.
a question. With the including students who have enlisted, are they true enlistments? And do the students have to provide a signed contract, if you will, with a military branch? And the only reason I bring that up is reading last year, there were a lot of stories about many districts who played games with that particular indicator because it helps pop your number. And they were counting kids if they just went and talked to a recruiter. Do we do anything to really verify that, yes, that's where they're heading and that they truly should be counted? Or I just wondered what the accountability was on that.
So in the past, the districts were allowed by TEA to come up with their own mechanism. And what we did is we looked at basically transcripts that were sent to the military recruiters as a measure that students were interested in enlisting. In the future, TEA is trying to get information directly from the Department of Defense in terms of enlistments. So our rate was less than 2% overall. So it was very small. There were some districts that were much, much higher, but ours seemed pretty reasonable from what we had based on past years. All right, so again, if you look at kind of in the middle of the AP and IB, we were higher than the state. We were also higher than the state for the SAT and ACT. And again, in most of these college readiness, we've been above the state and the region for many years. When you look at the Texas Higher Education Coordinating Board information, they give us information again from a different year because what they do is they try to report students who enroll in the fall of their senior year after they graduate high school. They enroll and they collect data on those students. In this case, for the class of 2017, they found data for 2,899 graduates. So we had 24.8 who went to four-year colleges in Texas, public colleges in Texas, 28.1 at two-year institutions that were public in Texas, and we had 3% private. So these were students, again, who were found in Texas. So these are not including students who went to school out of state. So what they do is they decide to create 5 different categories for their GPAs. And that ranges from less than 2.0 to greater than 3.5. If GPA could not be calculated, the student was placed in an unknown category. And so this is, again, GPA data is available for students who went to a public 4-year university in Texas or a public 2-year institution in Texas. And so over our graduates for the class of 2017, we had 85.6% of those at the 4-year institutions had greater than a 2.0 GPA, and those at 2-year institutions, 65.8% of them had greater than 2.0 GPA.
Dr. Roan, real quick question. This is Mr. Sitton.
Yes, sir.
Is there any way to track those kids that are going out of state? Because it seems like it's a growing trend over the last several years, especially since A&M went into the SEC. We have a lot of students going to Alabama, Ole Miss, Arkansas, LSU. Is there any way that we can track that to include these numbers?
We can get that from a different entity. It's the National Student Clearinghouse, and we can get that information for you. It's just not provided as part of this Texas report, and so it's not included here. But
Gotcha. No, that's no problem. I was just curious. Thank you.
Yeah, and I would like to see that too. This is Ms. Dixon at some point.
Okay.
Thank you.
Let me mention a few more things, and then I'll conclude my part. Texas requires us to publish a report of serious and violent criminal incidents by campus. We have that on our website. It's based on the mandatory expulsions based on the student code of conduct, and that's also that report is provided to the extent permitted under the FERPA, the Family Education Rights and Privacy Act of 1974. So the total incidents include all reported violations in the student code of conduct. High school and middle school campus incident numbers are similar to the prior year. The total number of serious incidents increased slightly from the prior year, but notably there was a 25% increase in the category of possession of marijuana or other substance. Another item that we need to talk about is IDEA and special education compliance status. Special education has certain performance plan indicators. They have 14 of them. That includes graduation rates, dropout rates, etc. And TEA requires special corrective action if a district is not in compliance with indicators 11, 12, or 13, which have to do with initial evaluation, early childhood transition, secondary transition, and post-secondary outcomes. But the district's special education determination status for 2019 meets requirements. So we've met those requirements for the year 2019. So this concludes the section on the TAPR. The TAPR for all the district is about 1,000 pages. What we've done is we split it up into the district and campus portions, and we've tried to put that in kind of reasonable chunks on the website of the district under accountability and under the annual report for this year. And again, if you have questions, you can always contact me. You can call me if you like. And let's move to the next.
Dr. Roan, I'm sorry, Robert Scarfo. I had a couple of questions on that, on the special ed
Yes, sir.
performance indicators. One comment and then those, a couple of questions. I was just surprised, pleasantly surprised to see on indicator 5A that although we're just shy of the state target, we're really saying that all those special ed students, and the other thing I wanted clarification, this group doesn't include 504 accommodation students. These are just those who have special ed diagnoses, intellectual disabilities, and the physical disabilities, or both.
Yes, it has to be. Yes, special
So
education.
504 is not included in this, in these targets.
Correct.
Okay, so then we are saying though that almost 67% of those students are spending 80% or more of their day in a gen ed class and not in a contained class. I was just surprised to see that I thought that was pretty high, even though we were under the target. And that's a good thing. And then the question I had is at the bottom about those outcomes. Why do we have, why are they not applicable? There's NAs in all those boxes as far as post-school outcomes, enrolled in higher education, enrolled or competitively employed, and et cetera. Why is that we don't have data?
I can't answer that, Mr. Scarfa.
Okay, then
That would be someone else. I'm
Dr.
sorry.
Fagan can get back to me. It was just something that kind of jumped out at me because the state has targets and their rates, so they didn't meet them either. So, but I just wondered, we didn't have anything in there at all, and why we don't have to. Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we will get back to you on the answer to that piece. Moving on to the second half of this presentation is sort of, in my opinion, a bit of foreshadowing where we would like to go with this annual presentation, where as a district we have started to embrace the idea that local accountability is something we should have, but the very first and most important part of that is to identify tools and assessments that we value and we believe in, because junky data is not worth anything. And so yes, we can use a lot of different things and get data about our students, but if you don't actually value the way that the things are measured, then you're making a lot of judgments about children that may not be well-founded. So our first steps into this include the PSAT, which we now give to all 8th and 9th grade students. And we are able to, in fact, Warren is able to track them as cohorts from 8th to 9th grade and see their progress or not on what I would consider to be a pretty gold standard assessment, one that is valued by universities, parents, etc., one that doesn't change on a whim, one that has pretty quality questions, and the way that they approach their assessment has been standard for a very long time, even before the high stakes testing movement. So we feel like this is something that we should be, one data point that we should be looking at. The next one is our local literacy assessment developed in-house. Dr. Moe, Dr. Johnson, many others worked very hard to identify key indicators of success in literacy and assess them at age-appropriate levels for our children so that we can see how they're learning and growing in reading. We weren't getting the data we needed from the other assessments that were available. There's a lot of conversation we could have about that another day. The bottom line is now we have quality information about our children, and we've gained that information the right way. And then finally, I wanted to show you one piece on college enrollment that I think is fairly interesting for the district and a point of pride. I think as you saw a lot of our data, you hopefully noticed that children, sorry, various children, no matter, no, sorry. Okay, so children of a lot of different races, ethnicities, etc., have demonstrated a lot of success on various pieces of our data set. So next. So this is PSAT results, 8th to 9th grade cohort progress. of our students who are in, so every single child that we have 2 years of data is on this chart. Every single child is a dot, and their growth or their regression is on here for you to see. So all of the blue dots are children who did better from 8th to 9th grade, and all of the orange to red dots are children who did not do as well from 8th to 9th grade. You will see some outliers on there that are probably students who either didn't try one time, didn't try the other time, or having a really bad day. You know, there's a lot of different things, but the good news is this: because it's identifiable to the student, that allows the campus to dig into that a bit more with that family, which is really the personalized instruction and the personalized use of data that we want to achieve. The next slide. This is math alone, so we can look at just math. Again, the same scenario unfolds here, where you see a lot of students who did very well moving across over into the blue, and then some orange and red where we might have some questions for those students, those campuses, et cetera. And our staff would then be able to look into that a bit more. Reading. And obviously, as a district, our goal would be to see that line move and a lot more students being on the positive side of it as time goes on. The more empowered our staff are to understand the usefulness of this data, the more successful we're likely to be moving forward, as well as the fact that we're going to get into the ideas of individualized student success, not looking at just aggregates, but instead of looking at individual students and what they need. And finally, the next one is writing. I'm highly skeptical of all writing assessments because it's fairly well documented, no matter where you look in research, that it's very difficult to score writing assessments in any way that is comparable from year to year or even from student to student. And so although I have a lot of faith in the PSAT, I would just caution anybody on putting too much weight into a writing assessment that is measured in 2 different years. However, it still gives us some indication of students and being able to look at the orange dots and perhaps provide some additional supports if it seems necessary. Now, this is our own literacy assessment, and I really love these data because this is our own students' fall to winter game. So the same kind of idea as the PSAT, but instead this is reading in our own children. So in our first graders, you will see that of the students who we assess fall to winter, there are very few who did not grow. And that is, I mean, yes, we want everybody to achieve on grade level or above, but there's a lot of conversation about grade level being an arbitrary measure. Who says where a 3rd grader should read? I mean, you may have a 3rd grader who's, you know, barely 9 and somebody who's, you know, 11. We have a huge age span in our grade level. So these data show us growth, and that's what we're really focused on. We want everybody to be at grade level or above, but the most important thing is that as they progress through the years, regardless of the factors in their lives that they can't control, that they are moving to the right. They are moving to a bluer spot. So you will see for our first graders on the left that very few of them either had no change and only 2 actually had a lower score in the second administration, meaning that all the rest grew. And then in 2nd grade, you see the same kind of thing, although there are a few more because we know that this compounds over time. And we know that literacy, the longer you struggle with literacy, the more impact it has on you as a student. And so we see that in our very own data. What will be interesting though is to see these first graders next year as 2nd graders. Do they all continue to grow? Do the students in the orange continue to lag? This is going to be really powerful for our teachers, and it will allow us to use that comp ed funding like we've discussed to really target students who need additional literacy instruction. For so long, since the high stakes testing environment came about, we just put kids who didn't have the right grade level in double the period. And that's not what they need. They need very targeted instruction. Our literacy assessment provides that personalized information about what it is that children don't have, what they lack, what skills they need, which allows our teachers to have very targeted, focused instruction. And with those smaller class sizes, because of our comp ed and targeting student needs, then obviously we have the ability to really make a difference. We hope, and we'll be able to see the difference or not. I'm very excited about this slide. It's great stuff. It really is, to really see that and the power of what our teachers are doing is just alive and well right there. Let's go on. Okay, literacy assessment, first grade winner by average gain or loss. Again, the same idea. Everybody to the right has made progress in first grade, and you can see that some have made a lot of progress. And that's great news because this is about where their gains were. So that some of these children may have been very low coming in, and so they've gained that much over a short period of time. Others started really high, and so they have high grade level achievement. You saw that on the last slide, but they have made less gains. So this is the conundrum of assessment, right? You want achievement for children who do achieve high, but you also want to show growth for the children who are growing leaps and bounds. Those are equally important. When you look at different campuses with different demographics, one campus you may see really high achievement and not a lot of growth. Another campus you're going to see a lot of growth and maybe not as high achievement. Both of those are success stories. This is the same for second grade. Again, this is average gain, so you can see that some children are growing by leaps and bounds, some are growing more slowly, and you can see the ones that have not made progress. And obviously, this gives teachers so much information and so much opportunity to intervene and to maybe look for secondary factors that they didn't see at first, which are sometimes indicators of needs for things like 504s or special education, and sometimes it's life circumstances, attendance, no reading materials at home. There's a lot of different pieces and parts to this, but this gives us diagnostic information to work with individual children. And that's what this takes. That's what you've got to do.
So Dr. Fagan.
Yes.
This is Martina Dixon. I feel like I think I know the answer to this, but so could you explain a little bit? So within each of those little dots, though, you do know if a child needs to work on fluency or accuracy, like what that space looks like for each student, correct?
That is correct. The assessment tells us not just how the student's doing, but how they're doing on each component of literacy that we've identified as valuable. So it's diagnostic, it's so much feedback for a teacher, and then Ann Johnson and her team have put together very specific interventions. If you have a child or a group of children who are struggling in this particular area, here's a way that you can approach that as a teacher. So teachers don't have to reinvent the wheel. Those are right there available to them when they get the information.
Thank you.
This is just another view, wanting just to show you the percentage of students who were hitting targets, first grade and second grade, fall to winter, and making sure that, again, the students are growing across time. There's only one bar for kindergarten because we didn't do a fall assessment, but I thought you should see the strong performance by our kindergarten students on that winter target, where 76% met their target. And one more slide, I believe. This is the enrollment by federal ethnicity and graduation year. Very interesting information. We actually have this, Mary Kay shared this with me. This means that these graduates were enrolled in college at any time and that they were there for at least one semester. So this means these children were college ready and they gained access and they were there, and it shows you by graduating class, the percentage of students who did participate in college by ethnicity. So I think this is a really interesting slide in that we have every different group here, and you can go through in the tool Tableau and you can click out different groups. What's wonderful about Humble ISD is that you can click out a group and the other groups are still strong. And you can see our Hawaiian Pacific Islander one is a bit smaller. I think our N there is pretty small also. So I think that's probably the major indicator right there. And some of our other groups might be a little small also, but still you get to see of the graduating class, the percent that enrolled. And I think that that's a point of pride for us.
This is fantastic. Can we get this at every board meeting?
Well, we don't get the new information that soon. It might be a little repetitive.
A different spin, you know.
Oh, okay.
Another
Okay,
area.
yeah. We'll dribble it out, chunks at a time.
But this is fantastic. I mean, I know it makes your decision making easier, but it makes it easier on us too. When you put your request in, you want funding to go to this area, we can see that it's meeting that need. It's fantastic. So we appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate the support, because we know years ago we asked you all to go down this other trail with us and value the things that we really believe are best for children and measure those things. And it was not something we could do overnight. We had to identify assessments, we had to roll them out, we had to train our staff, we do all this work. And so we're very excited to show you the first pieces of what is a quality local accountability system regarding academic achievement and college and career readiness. So to know, and on this one we're looking at right now, obviously, I think you all know this, but the reason the 2019 numbers are smaller than the others is because this is cumulative. So if somebody from the class of 2012 enrolls in college next year, we will still get credit for that on our bar chart. That information gets put into the report. So 2019 was just last year. Some students didn't choose to go. They may go next year. Then that percentage will go up. Any other questions on our first steps into local accountability and deploying our resources in the best interest of our students?
I have no questions. I just have a huge thank you for getting information that we've been wanting for ages. And this is outstanding.
Well, the thanks goes to a lot of people. Dr. Rohn has worked very hard. Mary Kay Janusis has worked very hard. You know, I'll say, here's what I'm thinking, and they'll take all these data sets and they'll mush them around and we'll get it back. And then I'll say, yeah, but what about this? And round we go. And they've done amazing work creating data visualization that people can really understand and digest. You know, and that's the idea behind data visualization. It's a huge amount of data displayed in a way that you go, oh, I see it, I get it. And that's what we're trying to do. But also Ann Johnson, Melissa Hayhurst, their teams who developed these assessments, Dr. Mo, who made it possible to really move that data around quickly. There are so many people who are working on this, our teachers who have been trained and implemented these assessments. This is absolute across the board success for everybody, but it's all in the best interest of students. And I think it's so funny that our first glimpse of this is on the heels of our state accountability piece, which harmed us a little bit because we use the PSAT. So it just goes to show you that we're doing really well, and we can show that. I think that's the last slide, so we can go on. Is it right? Am I correct? I believe yes, it is. Okay, so we can move on to the next agenda item. President.
Well, the next agenda item would be moving to our closing items. Are there any topics for future board business? If not, the time now is 6:57 p.m. and this meeting is now adjourned.